Youth and birth. Ivar the Boneless, son of Ragnar Lothbrok and Aslog, became a legendary figure among the Vikings. However, the name given to him at birth not only marked him as a warrior, but also as an extraordinary personality in history. The name Boneless was given due to his body's weakness and elasticity. When he was born, no one could have predicted that this frailty would lead him to become such a great leader in the future. Ivar's physical condition made his life difficult from childhood. His thoughts and ambitions far surpassed the expectations of those around him. He wanted to be a warrior like his father and brothers, but this physical limitation forced Ivar to find a different approach to battle. Although he could not gain a physical advantage in the battles of his youth, he always fought as he thought best, constantly demonstrating his strategic superiority. Despite this condition, war and battles were at the center of Ivar's life. By joining his father Ragnar's military training, Ivar began to develop both physically and as a warrior. Despite his bodily weaknesses, he honed his leadership skills with each battle. His self-confidence was rooted not only in physical strength, but also in strategic and intellectual superiority. This made him not only a formidable warrior, but also a great strategist among the Vikings. The legacy of his grandfather, the path to leadership. Ivar's life is deeply intertwined with the stories of his father, Ragnar Lothbrok. Ragnar was a legendary Viking leader, one of the most powerful and feared figures of his time. However, Ivar did not simply want to follow in his father's footsteps. He wanted to leave his own mark, to establish himself in battle and leadership. His greatest goal was to become the strongest leader not only of Norway, but of all Scandinavia. At a young age, Ivar gained recognition by participating in Ragnar's battles. But he began to develop his leadership skills not only in battle, but also in political and diplomatic realms. His actions in the battles demonstrated his wisdom. He ensured that his army remained strong not only in battle, but also in overall conflict. With every battle, Ivar advanced his army not just with physical strength, but with strategic thinking. Early battles and victory. In his early battles, Ivar fought not only against his weaknesses, but also against his enemies. One of his first major battles was the attack on Anglo-Saxon England. This battle was one of the biggest tests of his youth. Ivar gained significant advantages in difficult conditions by finding the weak points of the territory. At the beginning of the battle, the enemy was equipped with numerous warriors, but Ivar's army defeated them with advanced tactics and strategic thinking. This battle revealed just how capable Ivar was as both a warrior and a leader. He won the battle not only through strength, but also through meticulous planning and quick reactions. By carefully choosing every step, he maintained the upper hand throughout the battle. This victory showed that Ivar not only overcame his physical weaknesses, but also demonstrated his strategic skills. After the battle, Ivar's name began to be respected more among warriors and leaders. He was not only recognized as a warrior, but also as a strategist. Each victory added to his power. These victories demonstrated how well prepared he was for each battle and how skilled he was in securing advantages in combat. Ivar's leadership skills and strategic thinking. Ivar's leadership abilities were not only evident on the battlefield, but also in his social and political prowess. While defeating his enemies, he also used his victories to build diplomatic relations. This elevated his leadership abilities to an entirely different level. Ivar's victories were significant not only militarily, but also politically and socially. In each battle, he worked to bring not only his enemies, but also the surrounding peoples to his side. After each victory, Ivar would try to win over his enemies to his leadership, keeping them by his side. This demonstrated that, beyond just being a warrior on the battlefield, he was also a uniting leader. These qualities transformed him into one of the greatest leaders of Scandinavia, not just as a warrior, but as a uniter.
Ivar the Boneless had already proven himself on the battlefield at a young age, but a greater challenge lay ahead. He did not want to remain merely a warrior. Ivar's goal was to unite the vast lands of Norway and create a legendary Viking empire. However, there were many obstacles in his way. Other leaders and tribal chiefs in Norway struggled to accept his authority. Ivar's first major struggle was with the local tribal leaders in northern Norway. These tribal leaders wanted to remain independent and establish their own rule. As a result, Ivar faced their resistance. Yet he never considered retreating. Despite his physical weaknesses, he always sought to find his enemies' weak points in battle and gain an advantage over them. His superiority in battle was not solely due to physical strength, but also stemmed from his clever strategic maneuvers. In his first major battle, despite having a smaller army, Ivar's forces defeated the enemy with swift and precise attacks. Throughout the battle, Ivar's warriors were highly agile and well prepared. Ivar had analyzed the enemy's movements in advance and identified their weak spots. His warriors broke through the enemy's resistance and swiftly advanced, ultimately crushing the enemy. This victory made Ivar's name famous not only in Norway, but also in other parts of Scandinavia. Greater battles and strategic victories. The victory Ivar achieved gave him more territory to unite the northern part of Norway. But this also revealed that many more large battles and challenges lay ahead. The rulers and tribal leaders in other parts of Norway began to accept his power. But Ivar's dream of uniting the entire territory was still unfulfilled. Ivar's next major battle was against Denmark. Denmark was one of the most powerful and vast kingdoms of the time. This battle was not only a chance for Ivar to win, but also a test that would further increase his leadership abilities. Ivar was able to defeat Denmark's numerous armies on the battlefield. This victory also ensured his recognition as a strong leader throughout Scandinavia. The battle with Denmark increased his influence not only in Norway, but across all of Scandinavia. In this battle, Ivar's warriors were agile and well prepared. They gained an advantage over the enemy not only through physical strength, but also by their ability to move quickly. Before the battle began, Ivar had thoroughly prepared and identified all the weak points of the terrain. Denmark's powerful army struggled to fight back against Ivar's rapid and cunning attacks. As a result, Ivar triumphed not just with military superiority, but also through his diplomatic efforts. Ivar's leadership and diplomatic skills. Ivar's successes in battle were not solely based on physical strength and tactics. He also possessed exceptional leadership and diplomatic skills. The victories he achieved in battle not only gave him more land, but also provided him with the opportunity to win over other Viking tribes to his side. He was able to defeat his enemies and through diplomatic means bring them to his side. Ivar's diplomatic skills were crucial in his struggles as he stood firm not only in battle, but also in the political realm. After his victories, Ivar used his conquests not only to expand his territory, but also to convince various peoples and rulers to accept his leadership. This fact demonstrated his multifaceted leadership abilities. Ivar was not content with merely being a warrior. He was also establishing himself as a great state builder, leaving his mark on history. The dream of uniting Scandinavia. Ivar's goal was not just to win individual battles, but to unite all of Scandinavia and create a powerful empire. His aim was to bring together not only the borders of Norway, but the entire region under one state. This was the greatest and most difficult objective of his time. Every battle and victory brought him one step closer to this goal. The other countries and rulers of Scandinavia struggled to accept Ivar's goal. But Ivar never considered retreating and continued his struggle. In each battle, in every conflict, he did not only seek to be a warrior, but also expanded his territory through diplomatic means.
Ivar the Boneless, with his victories in battle and accumulated experience, was not only recognized as a warrior, but also as a great leader and strategist. In his earlier battles, he had demonstrated not just physical strength and combat skills, but also strategic thinking, which earned him considerable renown. However, Ivar's greatest goal had not yet been realized: to unite Scandinavia and establish a powerful empire across these lands. Unifying Scandinavia, goals and obstacles. Ivar's path was not only about winning battles, but also required significant diplomatic efforts to unify his expanding empire. His victories in northern Norway had increased his power and respect, yet leaders and kings in other parts of Scandinavia still saw him as a threat. Many of them felt that the empire Ivar sought to unite was a significant danger to their own rule. The powerful states of Scandinavia united to halt Ivar's rise. He always considered expanding his territory and removing threats as his primary goals. One of the first major obstacles he encountered were the tribes in northern Sweden. They were unwilling to accept Ivar's ambition to unify Scandinavia and sought to preserve their independence. This posed a significant challenge for Ivar, but he never considered retreating, and instead took up arms to face this resistance. Decisions in battle. Ivar's strategic talent. Ivar's leadership and strategic thinking on the battlefield were key to his many victories. He was not only a strong leader in battle, but also demonstrated his strength in territory management and other aspects of the struggle. In many battles, Ivar's warriors did not rely solely on physical strength, but on well-prepared strategic plans. One day, Ivar faced Denmark, Scandinavia's most powerful enemy. Denmark was one of the largest forces of the time, with a vast number of warriors. However, Ivar, both as a warrior and a strategist, managed to gain the upper hand. He analyzed the enemy's weaknesses at the start of the battle and devised a strategic attack plan. Every move he made was well thought out, as he identified Denmark's strong points and redirected his attack to their vulnerable spots, breaking the enemy's resistance. Diplomatic approaches and new alliances. Ivar did not limit himself to winning battles. He also sought to establish diplomatic connections, aiming to reach mutual agreements with his enemies. After each battle, Ivar's diplomatic skills won him new allies and weakened the leaders who opposed him. He directed his warriors not only in combat, but also in the strategic and diplomatic aspects of his campaigns. Ivar's diplomatic successes also led to significant changes among the enemies he defeated. After each battle, he succeeded in bringing many of his enemies to his side, incorporating them into his territory. This allowed him to expand his empire and attract more local tribes and rulers to his side. The path to empire and the final battle before his death. One of Ivar's greatest battles came when he sought to unify all of Norway. Various tribal leaders and rulers in both northern and southern Scandinavia had opposed Ivar's rule. However, Ivar won each battle, creating advantages for himself and taking more steps toward his ultimate goal. In his final battle, Ivar confronted numerous enemies and former allies, showcasing both his military prowess and leadership abilities. This was the greatest struggle of his life, but in the end, Ivar emerged victorious from many battles, gaining the power to unify Scandinavia. Ivar's death followed soon after these battles. Despite his physical weaknesses and natural death, he became one of the greatest leaders in Viking history. His legacy was not solely defined by battles, but also by his spirit of struggle and leadership, which left a lasting mark in history. Ivar the Boneless was drawing closer to his goal of uniting all of Scandinavia. His victories in battle and leadership skills had earned him great respect, both among warriors and kings. However, there were still many obstacles and challenges ahead. Ivar was fighting not only to expand his power, but also to ensure that his name would be written into history forever. This battle was not just about military victories, but also involved political, social, and economic complexities. The unification and strengthening of the empire. Ivar's ambition to unite all of Scandinavia was the greatest driving force of his life. The victories he achieved in battle had given him opportunities not only to expand the borders of Norway, but also to bring surrounding peoples together. These battles were not just about gaining territory, but they also served the larger goal of establishing Scandinavia's largest and most powerful empire. However, he faced great difficulties. The other leaders of Scandinavia saw his growing power as a threat and had united against him. This often led Ivar to engage in new battles to protect and expand his influence. Despite these challenges, Ivar's experience, battlefield superiority, and strategic thinking allowed him to triumph in these struggles. Ivar's army was always known for its speed and agility in battle. Before each fight, Ivar would carefully analyze the terrain and identify the enemy's weak points. His superiority did not solely stem from winning battles, but from his ability to exploit these weak points. By understanding the enemy's strengths, Ivar prepared his warriors to defeat those strengths and turn them into weaknesses. Dangerous allies and major diplomatic moves. Ivar was not only a victorious warrior, but also a skilled diplomat. His diplomatic expertise complemented his physical strength, allowing him to forge strong relationships with other leaders and kings across Scandinavia. He managed to attract allies and win over surrounding tribes, demonstrating his political and social acumen. After each battle, Ivar continued to take diplomatic steps to bring his enemies into his fold, adding them to his army. This highlighted his experience not only as a fighter, but also as a ruler and state builder. His main goal was not only to win battles, but to create a powerful empire that would unite all of Scandinavia. Great victories and the final struggles before his death. As a great leader, Ivar won numerous victories on the battlefield, but his most significant struggle was yet to come. He had already begun to fight for more than just a part of Scandinavia. He aimed to unify all the lands. With every battle, he grew stronger and gained new allies. However, he also faced both internal and external threats. In his final battles, Ivar's actions proved that he was indeed a great leader. He carefully managed his warriors and constantly worked to improve their effectiveness in battle. Ivar's leadership skills extended beyond being a warrior. He was also a great state builder and diplomat. His goal was not only to unite Scandinavia, but to create a unified Viking empire. Ivar's era will be remembered for his legacy not just in military victories, but also in governance and state building. He was recognized not only for his physical strength, but also as a diplomat and strategist. Through the battles and struggles of his life, Ivar cemented his name in history as the leader who united all of Scandinavia.
Ivar the Boneless, recognized as one of the greatest warriors of Scandinavia, lived a life filled not only with battles, but also with a legacy as a strategist, state builder, and leader. His name is etched in history, not merely for his military conquests, but for the immense legacy he left for future generations. Ivar became a symbol of leadership, not just in his time, but as an enduring example for generations to come. Ivar's death and his legacy. Ivar's life was filled with battles, strategic maneuvers, and diplomatic struggles. He spent his life fighting in wars and building empires, but his death marked one of the greatest struggles of his life. The victories he gained and the empire he established turned into one of the largest and most powerful empires, not just in Scandinavia, but across the Viking world. After Ivar's death, his legacy was carried on by his children and future generations. His sons, inspired by their father's warrior spirit, leadership, and strategic prowess, continued his legacy as the future leaders of the Vikings. Yet the state Ivar created and the ideals he upheld were not just about warfare. His influence extended to political, economic, and social spheres, ensuring that his impact would last far beyond his reign. The battles Ivar fought were not confined solely to military success. They helped shape Viking society, traditions, and culture. The Vikings were not only known as warriors, but also as a people who expanded their culture, belief systems, and lifestyle. Ivar's era marked the pinnacle of Viking culture as he united Scandinavia and laid the foundation for a powerful and expanding culture that would impact future generations. During Ivar's reign, the Vikings began to build not only a powerful military, but also a strong state in trade and diplomacy. By uniting Scandinavia, he helped the Vikings regain their position as a dominant force, not only in battle, but also among the other powers of the world. The impact of Viking culture and the legacy for future generations. Ivar's life and struggles were not just about uniting Scandinavia. His greatest legacy was his contribution to the development of Viking culture. The Vikings were not just known as warriors during his time, they spread their beliefs, culture, and way of life across the world. Ivar's era marked the pinnacle of Viking culture as he united Scandinavia and established the foundation for a cultural influence that spread across generations and Europe. One of the Vikings' greatest traits was their desire to travel and conquer new lands. The reign of Harald, following Ivar's legacy, was a significant period during which the Vikings began to conquer not only Scandinavia, but other lands as well. Under Harald's leadership, the Vikings expanded their reach through trade and diplomacy, creating a powerful state. Harald inherited and continued the legacy that Ivar had established, passing it down to future generations. The eternal spirit of Ivar. Ivar Fairhar, known not only as a king and warrior, but also as a leader and great state builder, left an indelible mark on history. He remains a legendary figure, not only in Scandinavian history, but also in the broader history of Europe. Harald's spirit, passed down to his descendants, solidified the empire he created and turned Scandinavia into a powerful world force. In the end, Ivar's name lives on not just in the battlefields, but also in the memories of the people and as a representative of Viking culture. His legacy expanded beyond Norway's borders, securing his place as one of the greatest leaders in Viking history. Under his reign, the power and order he established were among the most significant influences in promoting Viking culture across the world. The legacy left for future generations. Harald Fairhar, as the first great monarch of Norway and Scandinavia, left a vast legacy for future generations. During his reign, the Vikings were not only warriors, but also the builders of a great state. The stories and legends of Harald's life continue to live on, not only in Scandinavia, but globally. As one of the greatest leaders of his time, Harald left the Viking people a legacy of resilience, leadership, and unwavering spirit that continues to inspire future generations.